After Roswell, UFO sightings go through the roof, peaking in the 50s.
They're seeing flying saucers everywhere. Flocks of fantastic discs flying through the air. Is there something to it?
There were tens of thousands of sightings. It's well documented now that there was virtually some sort of air war over America in 1952.
The public is convinced that an alien invasion has begun. Even President Truman gets in on the act.
There's always things like that going on. Flying saucers, you know.
By the late 50s, popular culture is reinforcing the message. UFOs mean aliens. Flying saucers are from outer space. In 1952, the U.S. Air Force establishes Project Blue Book, an official task force based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Project Blue Book collects and evaluates UFO reports. An analysis of these eyewitness sightings shows that Roswell wasn't the only UFO incident happening close to America's most secret bases.
There were large numbers of sightings around hotspots. Hotspots as super secret, super sensitive military bases, often bases where German scientists had been moved to after the war as paperclip.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was one of these hotspots. Initial newspaper reports claimed this is where the Roswell wreckage was taken. Project Blue Book had its headquarters here. In 1965, the Kecksburg object was reportedly seen inside one of its hangars. And it was home to some of Nazi Germany's most brilliant scientists. Dr. Paul Ziss is a retired aeronautical engineer. He worked with German Project Paperclip scientists at Wright-Patterson in the late 1950s.
I worked with about 7 of them. There were probably about 40 of them at Wright-Patterson. First of all, they were loyal Germans, and they wanted Germany to win, and I don't find anything wrong with that. And they became loyal Americans when they came over here.
Loyal enough to keep quiet about Germany's most secret weapons programs? What did the Project Paperclip scientists know about radical gravity theories and flying saucers? Paul Ziss's boss, Dr. Wilhelm Nachstedt, knew something.
Doc would say there were some guys who had some wild ideas about levitating things, but he was not really interested in it.
But the U.S. military was. In the late 1950s, top secret testing began at Wright-Patterson on a disc-shaped or lenticular aircraft.
They may have found something in Germany that had a lenticular shape that they were trying to reproduce.
The U.S. Air Force's first acknowledged flying saucer program is about to take off. Through the 1950s, UFO reports increase across the United States. Were these UFOs alien vehicles from another planet? Or is there a human explanation? Government documents declassified in 1995 show that in the 1950s, the U.S. Air Force invested $5 million in a top-secret program known as Project Silverbug, run out of the Avro Canadian Company in Toronto. The project centered on a radical new craft, the Avro car. Bill Zook is a Canadian aviation historian.
The Avro car was a proof-of-concept vehicle. It was intended to show the way that a design of a complete flying disc would work.
Declassified Silverbug documents project a top speed of Mach 3 and a maximum ceiling of 80,000 feet. It would take off vertically using the Coanda effect. In the 1930s, Henry Coanda showed that a flow of air around a curved surface will follow the contour to create lift. The Avro car would achieve the Coanda effect by using 3 engines to power a central fan. The downdraft would follow the curved surface and launch the craft into the sky. British engineering genius John Frost was the brains behind the project. Frost openly admitted that his inspiration had come directly from World War II German research.
In in 1953, he sat through a debriefing session with a German engineer who'd claimed that there was some testing of a flying disc in a test facility outside of Prague in the Second World War.
This confirmation of German saucer tests wasn't the only link between the Avro car and Nazi Germany. One of the key advisors to the project was Alexander Lippisch, a Project Paperclip engineer. During World War II, he had worked alongside other Nazi scientists on vertical takeoff.
What John Frost was doing was basically mining some of the information that Lippisch could provide.
Frost was leaning heavily on German know-how. What did he know about their designs that convinced him the Avro car would work? Could it have anything to do with a top-secret Nazi project called the Repulsine? Built by Austrian engineer Victor Schauberger, it bears more than a passing resemblance to Frost's Avro car. Jörg Schauberger is Victor Schauberger's grandson. He owns an original unpowered model of the Repulsine device.
And here is the device Victor Schauberger is very well known for when it comes to suction, anti-gravity, levitation, energy. It's the so-called Repulsine.
Schauberger conducts his work at the Mauthausen concentration camp. Like the Avro car, Schauberger's Repulsine operates on the Coanda effect. According to Jörg Schauberger, his grandfather's initial tests astonished the whole team.
By accident, this device flew to the ceiling of the workshop. Victor thought there is some levitational force within the machine. And this is anti-gravity working.
But in 1944, just as Schauberger and his team are making progress, the SS orders him to head east.
He writes one day he has to go to a secret facility somewhere in Poland, and then we don't have any reports from him for many weeks.
Poland, home of the Bell, another Nazi project focused on vortices and anti-gravity. Was Schauberger brought in to help their design team? At the war's end, Schauberger's designs and prototypes are seized by the Allies.
Victor said after the war that the US have things stolen from him that were very important for his work.
All the working models of the Repulsine vanish. A few years later, as the first flying saucer reports flood the United States, Victor Schauberger is stunned.
He himself tells journalists or people who listen to him, I was the one who built the first flying saucer. So maybe I am the father of the UFOs.
Are Victor Schauberger's confiscated designs helping the U.S. build flying saucers? If so, they don't appear to help John Frost. There's nothing stunning about the results of Project Silverbug. In tests, the Avro car proves it can take off vertically, but its performance is limited by a lack of power.
In order to actually get off the ground, it had to be powered almost to full thrust. And that would just be enough to rise it into the air at about 3 feet height. And that altitude, then it could be pushed forward to about the speed of a moving car, maybe 60 kilometers an hour.
Frost proved the aerodynamic theories of disk flight could work. What he lacked was more time and money to find the power the craft needed. In 1961, the Air Force canceled Project Silverbug, and all rights to the Avro car reverted to the Department of Defense. It looked like the end of the road for man-made saucers. Or was it? Just 4 years later, in 1965, a bell-shaped object crashes in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. The U.S. military and government agencies are immediately on the scene. Eyewitnesses report that the craft is rushed to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the same place the Avro car was being tested just years before. Was the Kecksburg crash part of a secret U.S. project to continue development on flying saucers? Did it crash because, like the Avro car, it was underpowered and unstable? If the U.S. military was conducting tests with working flying saucers, they would have to be kept hidden. People would have to be silenced. Impossible? One fact is undisputed. It's been done before in the U.S. military's black projects at a place called Area 51.